Okay, everyone, this week we'll be continuing to work on our view classes. This week we're going to learn about inheritance and interfaces and abstract classes, and hopefully I'll just actually give you a knowledge of what those are as well as showing you an example. So first let's talk about interfaces. I'm going to create a new one and talk about what everything means about an interface as I'm doing it. So we'll call this the view interface. So what a view interface is going to, or an interface is going to do for us is allows us to lump a lot of things that are common but slightly different together. For instance, you might have a shape interface, and you could have a circle class and a square class, and they might have common things, common methods like get area, because both circles and squares have area, but maybe the circle doesn't have get number of corners, or there are other slight differences between the different shapes. And so what an interface allows us to do is kind of lump those things together so we can pass those around as just shapes, and we don't really care what shape they are, right? We'll know their shapes and we don't really care what they are. So it allows us to add common methods for a bunch of different classes that were guaranteed to be there, is really what it does in brief. Is you take a bunch of methods that are common between all classes, you put them in an interface, and you have all those classes implement that interface, and it allows us to say, okay, all of these share these common methods. They might be implemented differently and do different things, but they're guaranteed to have these methods, and it makes coding, it can make coding a lot easier. So in our view interface, we know we have a lot of common methods that we've used. For instance, we know we have display menu, but we're going to change that method name to just display because that's what the assignment calls for. And you'll notice in the interface, first of all, I declare it as an interface instead of a class. That's the only difference to create one. It's Java standards to always end your interfaces with interface. Or I've seen a lot of things that do I, so iView would be another acceptable. We're going to go with this naming convention. And then instead of writing methods and member variables, I only can write method signatures. So just the first line of the method that tells me what this method is about. So you can see I have the display method, and it's public and it's void, and it doesn't take any arguments. And I end that with a semicolon saying, this method needs to exist, anything that's implementing this interface. We'll have the, I've made it a char, but you could also make it a string, the get input method. So I'm going to leave mine as a char, but if yours is a string or some other type, that's completely fine. And then another method that we all have in common is, I think mine is void, but you can make it return Boolean if it's successful if you want. I'm going to keep mine void. I don't think it's important that our do action method needs to really return anything. However, I do need a parameter in my do action. I need to pass in the character from get input. So I'll make that as a parameter. So that's all an interface is, right? It just says anything that is going to implement this interface has to have these three methods defined exactly the same way. And I can jump over to my battle view, or that one's not implemented yet, my help menu view, and I can say implement view interface. And you'll see I'll get exceptions, right? It's saying that this class is not abstract, and it doesn't. This is a kind of an odd exception. The last line is more exactly what it is telling me I need to do. It says I need to implement the unimplemented methods of the view interface, and those methods are display, get input, and do action. And that was one of the few cases that the autocomplete of NetBeans actually worked. It usually doesn't. So I'm going to get rid of this right now. We're not actually going to implement the interface in our views. We're only going to implement it in one view. And that view is going to be our abstract class. So we're going to just create the view class. And this is going to implement, and I spelled that wrong, implements the view interface. And we're actually going to make it an abstract class. And what an abstract class means is this is really not a complete definition of a class. I'm going to create things in this class that are partially done, and I'm going to require whoever is extending this class to finish them. And we'll get to what that really means and how that works a little bit later, but let's go ahead and create those methods in the view interface that we want to override here. So the method display, for instance, we'll need that method, and now we'll need to implement it here. And so how I'm going to implement this is in the reading for the team assignment this week, it pretty much tells exactly what you can do. I'm going to do things slightly differently. I am going to create a private string, the menu that's actually going to be displayed. And then I'm going to go to one of my views that I've implemented, and I'm going to just copy part of this display menu. I implemented this differently than I needed to, so I'm not going to copy parts of it, and I'll explain why in a second. So what I'm going to do is just paste that, and really quickly is just output the menu variable. And actually, I'm thinking about this. I'm going to copy more or less the reading. That will help those of you that are doing the reading and watching these videos kind of put the two together. So the reading has this in a do while loop, so that's what I'm going to do. And then I need to go back to my interface. This do actually needs to return a Boolean, whether I'm supposed to continue or not. And I'm not sure why it's giving me... It wants me to add the override annotation, so that's good. It's missing the Java doc, which I'm not going to worry about. It's saying I don't need to initialize this because I'm assigning it before I ever use it, so I'll just set that up just like that. And I'm pretty sure I could even declare this here. Nope, didn't think so. Okay, so what's going to happen is in this display method, I'm going to output the menu, collect the input, do the action on the input. If that action is exit, then this continue variable will be false, and I'll bail out, and then I'll end this display method. If it's true, I repeat the cycle. And again, when I show you the example of how that works, we'll step through the code, and I'll show you exactly what it is that the code is doing. I will also in this class implement the getInput method, and I'm just going to copy that off of the main menu view. And it wants me again to add the override annotation so that it's clear that this is a method that comes from the interface. And again, this get input method is the exact same as my other one. I'm not changing anything here. I create a scanner that's going to read off of the input from the keyboard. I'm going to, as long as I haven't input anything, keep waiting. So if they just keep hitting enter, I'm not going to actually repeat the menu. As soon as they type anything, I'm going to pull the first character off that, turn it to uppercase, and return that value. And so, so that's the get input. I explained that last week in the lesson. So, so that should get you set there. And that's all we're going to actually implement in this abstract class. So you can see we implement the view interface. That view interface has this do action method, but we're not implementing it here. We're going to leave that up to all the classes that extend this to implement it. And that's what abstract does. It allows me to make a partial class. So this is a partial class. And now I'm going to jump over to the welcome view, or sorry, the main menu view. Oh, we can do the welcome view. So we're going to jump over to the welcome view, which is the first view that I created in my example last week, which has the big wall of text and collects the player's name, and then it displays that name. Actually, this view doesn't fit our interface model, so we're not actually gonna have this view extend our view class because it doesn't follow the same methodology. So let's go to the main menu view and let's just add this line that it extends view. And we'll get an error right away because we have the get input method, or sorry, the do action method, but it returns void, and I want it to return Boolean. And so I'll keep that and I'll explain when I delete it. So in our do action, we'll return true at the very end here. And the one case that we're going to return false is an exit game. And so instead of calling the exit game method, I'm going to just return false, which is, in the exit option, I'm just going to return false. Since I'm returning here, I actually don't need the break. The code will never reach this line. So I'll delete that. So now in my do action, what's going to happen is if they call any, if they choose any option, I'll always return. I'll do the action and then return true to repeat. Otherwise, if they call E, then I'm going to return false. And then I don't need to call display menu again here, since display menu itself repeats because I'm returning true. So I'm going to get rid of that. And it's always fun to break, even though this is the very last case and I don't need to. It's always just good to put that there. Okay, so now our do action method is implemented in our main menu class. And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm stuttering a lot. It's because I'm kind of tired today. So it wants me to add the override annotation. On these ones, though, I actually don't want to override them. I already wrote this exact same code. So I'm just going to get rid of the this get input method, and then I'm just going to copy this because I want that. And then we're going to get rid of the display menu method. I don't need those. But what I do need to do is make sure that this menu displays the right string for, let me close some of these classes. So in the view class, this display is going to output this menu string. And I've never initialized that either in this abstract class or in this class. And I have a bunch of exceptions here. Oh, I don't need these calls to display menu anymore either because that was causing the that was what was keeping me in the main menu loop until I wanted to jump out of it. Now it's this do while loop that's going to keep me in the view I want until I want to break out of it. So, so back over to my main menu view, I need to make sure that this menu string gets set to what I want it to be. And to do that, I'm going to create a constructor that's going to take a parameter and set my variable to be whatever it is I pass into this constructor. And so now back over to my main menu view, I need to call the super constructor and pass in the string that is going to be my menu. And since these are all system out print lines, I'm just going to copy, add the new line, and then just copy and paste all of these in here. And format, so it's nice and clean. And I forgot new lines, so I'll add those in. And now my main menu class works the exact same way it did, and I only have to implement the doAction method. The two other methods, I can still call those, right? I'll jump back to my zombie class. The display menu method no longer exists, so I'm just going to call display, which is what the view class has. And when I run this, you can see I get the main menu. I can type an invalid character, and it's going to say, please select a valid input. And then, if I type in N, it'll say not implemented yet. If I go to H, I actually haven't implemented my help method yet either. But if I type E, then it exits the game successfully. So, really quickly, again, interfaces are method declarations only, and just says anybody that's going to use this interface better implement these methods. And then abstract classes are partial classes, saying I'm going to get you part of the way there. I added display and I added get input, but you're on your own for implementing doAction, right? Or you're on your own for adding any other methods or variables you want. This is only a partial class. So yeah, I'm going to commit and push this to my GitHub repository. I'm going to implement the rest of my views now that they'll go really quickly. Now they'll be really fast to implement. And I'll post a link to my GitHub repository that has all this code. You can check it out, look at it, use it as an example, do whatever you want. But yeah, this week's assignment is for the team assignment is for you to, I believe, create the view abstract class and the view interface. And then I believe you probably need to correct one of your views. So, get rid of the get input and display menu methods. And then as far as the individual assignment goes, I just want you to divvy up the work and make sure that all of your views are set up in the same way where you are extending the view class, except for the welcome view. The welcome view doesn't match the same criteria as all of our other views. So if there are any questions, post to the developer forum. You're probably not the only one with those questions, and we'll get those answered. And I hope you have a good week this week. I'm looking forward to looking at some of your assignments where you've posted your midterm kind of code walkthroughs, and hopefully get those graded soon as well. So yeah, have a good week.